Hey guys, Greg Chapowski the Music Nut here, and I know I need a haircut because this is starting to look honestly pretty ridiculous, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Today I want to talk about the contents of this here book. Now, before I get started, I just want to tell all of you that this video is totally unscripted because what I'm about to do is tell each and every one of you every single concert I've been to up until this point in my life. And that is a lot of concerts, and I don't really want to write a whole script about each and every one of these concerts, so I'm just going to wing it, and I'm just going to talk about these one by one, and maybe you'll enjoy it, maybe you won't, maybe it will suck, maybe you'll be bored, I don't know. But at the same time, maybe you'll be entertained and get some enlightened input on some of these shows. So, let's just get right down to it, shall we? Oh yeah, side note, the reason I wanted to make this video is because I can give you guys an idea of every single concert I've been to up until this point of my life, and from now on basically I plan to review every future concert I've been to, so you guys can keep track of pretty much every concert I've ever attended. I thought that was kind of interesting, I don't know, do you? Hopefully. Anyway, let's jump right into it. This is why I script my videos, by the way, because I suck. First concert I've ever been to was AC/DC with The Answer. Now, you probably never heard of The Answer. I didn't hear of them either when I went to this show, but if I remember correctly, they were kind of like a Led Zeppelin vibe. They performed pretty well. But obviously the real highlight was AC/DC. This was a great first concert. They put on a really good performance, especially considering they're an older band and you might expect them to, you know, not hit their notes so well, you know, not play their instruments so well, but they killed it, and there were theatrics, there was a lot of everything cool. They also played pretty much every single hit song that I know of. You know, you got the classics, you got Shook Me All Night Long, Thunderstruck, Hell's Bells, the list goes on and on. I mean, it's AC/DC, they have so many hits, and they performed all of them, and they got tired, but they still did it really well considering they were in like their 60s when I saw them. I believe that was back in 2010, I want to say. First concert in 2010. Anywho, second concert I've been to, Kiss with Buckcherry. Now, Buckcherry, I don't know if you know them or not, they're rock bands, but they performed really well. The guy had this tambourine he kept slapping on his leg, and that was kind of interesting. That was fun to watch. But, of course, again, the real highlight was Kiss. And just like AC/DC for an old band, they performed very well. They still wear their costumes. I think there was one interview where Gene Simmons was like, oh, I'm too old to wear these costumes. But they still wear their costumes when they're performing, so I don't know what that guy's talking about. But it was a great show. I think there was one moment where Paul Stanley used this like Tarzan swing and went across the venue to the other side of the venue and then like played this guitar solo in like the audience there, and then like Tarzan swing back to the stage. That was cool. Yeah, he was also shooting like pyrotechnics out of the end of his guitar. That was pretty sick too. Yeah, good show. Third concert was Iron Maiden with Automan. Now, Iron Maiden is an interesting act, as whenever you see an Iron Maiden show, the Iron Maiden fans, the classic Iron Maiden fans, get really uptight because they're there to see Iron Maiden and nothing else basically. So every time I've seen Iron Maiden personally, the opening act, which in this case was Automan, I think I said, get booed, they got stuff thrown at them. Even though they performed pretty well, they still get a lot of hate because the people are there to see Iron Maiden and they're kind of obnoxious about it, to be honest. But yeah, Iron Maiden, killer show. They always bring out their stage mascot, Eddie, which is really sick. He's like a giant zombie mascot thing if you don't know your Iron Maiden. But yeah, that was cool. That was cool. And they played a lot of hits. I believe this time around they didn't play 2 Minutes Till Midnight, which I remember being very disappointed by. But it was still a really good show, also considering they're an old band in their 60s. Fourth show I saw was my first ever metal concert. Well, I guess Iron Maiden or Kiss or AC/DC, if you consider them metal, was my first ever metal concert. But this one was As I Lay Dying with opening acts Carnifex, Unearth, and All That Remains. Now, this was the first time I went to a mosh pit, and my friend persuaded me to do it. it was a bad idea because I ran in there. I didn't know what to expect from a mosh pit. I actually went in when All That Remains played their song 6. And yeah, I got elbowed in the face. Black eye immediately. First ever mosh pit, black eye the next day. And I looked pretty funny. But that was a good show all around. All of these bands performed really well. The guy from On Earth always plays like his guitar behind his head, which is, I mean, a few people do that, but that's always cool to see. Yeah, All That Remains was pretty cool, but the singer, I kind of got this vibe that he was sort of a douchebag. I don't know. Have you seen them? Did you think the singer was a douchebag, or is that just me? As I Lay Dying. Now that's interesting because, as you fans of As I Lay Dying might know, Tim Lambesis, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, went to jail for trying to get someone to murder his wife. So I got to see them before that whole, thing went down, and when they were still considered a Christian band. So that was nice, I guess. He also wasn't super ripped back when I saw them, so. But yeah, that was a good show, except for the black eye. Fifth show I've ever been to was Cataclysm with local band Laika, a band that's now defunct, Conducting from the Grave, and also All Shall Perish. That was a really good show too. That was, I believe I went in, no, I was too scared to go into the mosh pit at that one because, I was a pussy at As I Lay Dying, so didn't want to go into that one. I thought I was going to get another black eye or something. This concert I don't have too many memories of, but I know it was a good show. I mean, it was small show, like $25 or whatever, local. So, well, not local, but I mean, there was like some local bands. Pretty good show. Now, the sixth concert I've been to was something called the Manitoba Metal Fest, because I live in the province of Manitoba, and we have this annual metal fest here, where there would be a bunch of local bands playing, basically, and there'd be normally one big headlining metal band that they can get in. I think once they had Suffocation, they had, what was that band called? I can't remember. I don't know. There was another one too. But they've gotten a lot of classics. DRI, actually, the kind of like punk metal band, played last year. And Gruesome. But this one was 2011, so a while back. It opened with local bands Tyrant's Demise, good band, check them out. Grandmaster, another good band, very proggy. Electro Quarterstaff, I don't know if they're a band anymore, I think they are. All of those are good local bands, you should check them out. And 3 Inches of Blood is the highlight band there. That was like a big Canadian metal band, kind of like power metal, thrashy a little bit. And unfortunately they're defunct now, but I loved 3 Inches of Blood. It still is like one of my favorite bands because they're very unique. It's got like the falsetto vocals, it's got the screams, it's got the thrashy feel, it's got the, I don't know, the headbanging sections. But yeah, that was a good show. You know what? That was actually the first show I went to a mosh pit and actually enjoyed myself. So that was significant in that regard. I remember 3 Inches of Blood was playing. I think it was Battles and Brotherhood, if you know that song. And I went in there and I'm like, you know what? Whatever, everyone's moshing. I'm going to do it. This time I won't get a black eye. I'm going to like fight for my life in there. And I did, and I had fun. Tip to all you new moshers out there. If you're going to go in a mosh pit, you go in with a mindset like you're fighting for your life, and I don't think you'll get hurt. But if you go in there like, oh, it's gonna be a good time, I'm gonna be dancing, like, no, you're gonna get your face crushed. Unless it's like, I don't know, like a Jimmy World mosh pit or something. But yeah, mosh pits are fun. Just be safe, kids. Seventh concert I went to, local show, Untimely Demise with the Prostitutes, good name, the McNasties, and Gag Reflex. These are all like super underground, in the local scene even, punk bands. And Untimely Demise was like a thrash band. I think they were from Vancouver. I'm from Manitoba, as I said before. This show was in a venue called, what was it called? Okay, I remember. The venue was called the Death Trap, and by God, that is like one of the worst venues I've ever personally gone to in my life. It was basically a venue that was under a cafe downtown, not in the hood as they'd call it, but not the best area to be seeing a show at like 2 in the morning. So yeah, it was under a cafe, down some very, very, I guess steep stairs, and it was just like a tiny little room, a small room, and the bands would play on the floor. There'd sometimes be mosh pits. For this show specifically, because it was like an underground punk show, there was some aggressive moshing, and it was kind of scary, to be honest, for a guy like me. I think I was like probably like 16 back then or something, 17 maybe. And honestly, that venue, the Death Trap, a lot of people loved it as a local venue. I thought it was garbage, but whatever. Eighth concert I went to was also in the Death Trap. It was a band called Grandmaster. Saw them before this, as I already mentioned. They played with Abhorrupt, Dissected Reality, Reverend, Kill, and Death Toll Rising. Now, these last two bands I said are not local bands. They were from Vancouver, I believe. I may be wrong. But this was just another local show, basically. Nothing huge. Death Trap, definitely nothing huge. Pretty tiny, actually. But, yeah. Ninth concert I went to was... This was a really good show. I think this was called the Warriors of the Great White North Tour, because it was two, like, highly influential Canadian bands, but it was like a punk / metal mix-up. And they would switch between headliners. Like, sometimes it would be Cancer Bats headlining, and sometimes it would be 3 Inches of Blood. But those were the two bands I saw there, and they opened with a band called Waster, which is still a band. I believe they're from my city of Winnipeg, and they're killing it. Like, I think they went to Australia recently. But you should definitely check out Waster. Great band. They have some really good hits. But yeah, Cancer Bats is always super killer on stage. Lead singer, I believe his name's Liam Cormier, has so much on-stage presence and energy. It's crazy. If you get the chance to see Cancer Bats, definitely worth checking out. Even if you don't like hardcore punk as much, they put on a pretty, I guess, metal performance, so to speak. But yeah, that show was awesome. 3 Inches of Blood was always awesome. Fortunately, they're not a band anymore, as I said, but what are you gonna do? God, this is gonna be a long video, guys. Get your popcorn, boys. You know what I'm saying? 10th concert was, this one was also at the Death Trap local show, Grandmaster with Jarhead and Damascus. I don't think Jarhead or Damascus exists anymore. Grandmaster still exists, but they're still part of the local scene. You know, another show. It was good show. That's about it, really. 11th show I saw was... Oh boy, I forgot about this one. This was another local show with a band called On This Day. And supporting acts, Shot Down South, Long Term Enemy, and Annex Theory. I'm sorry it seems like I keep like zoning out or something. I'm just trying to remember these shows because I've seen so many. But yeah, this show was pretty pop punk, I guess. It had some, you know, screamo going on. But yeah, like I said, local show. It was pretty good, actually. I remember thinking that On This Day actually wasn't one of the better acts, even though they were headlining. But Annex Theory, I don't know if they exist anymore. That was pretty cool. Long Term Enemy was pretty good. I think all of these bands exist. They're just like barely relevant, not to be a dick or anything, but barely relevant anymore, even in the local scene. 12th concert I went to was Skate for Cancer, which I don't know if you know what Skate for Cancer is. I don't know how far Skate for Cancer actually ranged, but this one was, I guess you'd call it a charity event, and you know, you're skating for cancer, basically. Bunch of skateboarders in a skate park. You got a bunch of bands playing at the skate park. You got a bunch of merch tables where they're selling art by local artists, skate stuff, all this kind of stuff. Now, you don't pay to see the bands, which is pretty sweet, but you can pay to get the merch and whatnot, and I guess that's the money that goes towards the cancer foundations that they supported. I'm not actually sure which money goes, but it's a good thing, you know. It was a good thing. I don't know if Skate for Cancer exists anymore, but it was really cool, and it, you know, got the kids out. It got the kids, you know, doing something good for the community. But Skate for Cancer always had like a huge list of local just performers, from like punk, folk, metal, all kinds of stuff. And like I said, they'd play at the skate park. It was pretty sweet. But a lot of these I actually missed. I would go for like a few acts because they played throughout the whole day. Like I'm not going to go there all day to see all of these different genres of music. But yeah, there was like, I won't name all of them, but there was like Dan Collins, Derek Zacharias, Jared Kist, Greg Rekas, John Smith, Adam Haney, A Waste Odyssey, Forever I, The Angry Dragons. My cousin was actually in that band. The Vibrating Beds, Danger Cat, Living in Red, A Broken Summer, The All Night, Take Me to blah, 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 blah. Waster played there too. But yeah, third concert I went to was Putrescence with Flash Out, To Soufra, and Besieged. This was a really lame show because it was like on a Thursday night, you know, people had work, people had school, and even though it was all ages, there was like no turnout. It was a grindcore show, and normally at a grindcore show you would expect crazy energy, honestly, crazy mosh pit, but there was nothing. There was no movement. I do remember the guy from Flash Out got really drunk. He stage dived and there was like 5 people up front. He totally went over them and landed right on the floor. And he was rolling there with his beer, and you know, that's why you don't drink, kids. Or I guess that's why you don't drink and play a grindcore show. Yeah, that was kind of a lame show. 14th show was the Schools Out Metal Fest. This is not the same as the Manitoba Metal Fest. It was a different thing. Schools Out Metal Fest, all ages. This one was with local acts Rapture, Hoarfrost, and Tyrant's Demise. Hoarfrost doesn't exist anymore, but they were a really sweet, like, blackened death metal band. Rapture, I don't know if they exist. They were, they didn't get very big or anything, even in the local scene. Tyrant's Demise still exists, still killing it. They have a lot of good stuff. Check them out. They're kind of like deathcore, death metal, kind of like Black Dahlia Murder, honestly. But yeah, that was a good show. Good mosh pit, I remember. I had a good time. 15th show was Waster, who I talked about before, with Pathogenic, Fatality, Until Dawn, and Without Mercy. This was a sweet show. There wasn't a huge turnout, but I remember me and like 6 other friends at the time started this mosh pit for the first band because they were so good and there was like no one there and it was just me and all my friends. So we started moshing and the guy was like smiling at us and like, you know, you guys rock kind of thing. But yeah, the people really came for Waster at the end because they were the headliner, and I don't really blame them because Waster's a sweet band, as I said before. Kind of got like the Cancer Bats vibe. But all of these bands were actually really killer. Without Mercy, Until Dawn, Fatality, Pathogenic. Good show, good show. 16th concert was interesting. I couldn't go in the mosh pit for this one because I remember I sprained my back. Actually, I sprained my back at the Waster show because I went to the mosh pit when my back was already sore, and for some reason I ended up spraining my back. But the 16th show was Scream the Prayer Tour, which was a Christian show. All these Christian metal bands, which included Sovereign Strength, As Hell Retreats, The Great Commission, I the Breather, Texas in July, Close Your Eyes, War of Ages, The Chariot, which is now a defunct band, but they had crazy energy. Seriously, go search the Chariot video on YouTube, and those guys were crazy. Sleeping Giant, and the headliner was Norma Jean. Now I'm not really into Christian metal so much, but this was a pretty good show. I think it started at like 6 and ended at like 12. There's a lot of bands playing there, as you saw. But yeah, good show. Didn't get to go in the mosh pit, so it made it kind of lame for me. But hey, that's why you don't sprain your back. 17th show was Hate Eternal with Origin, Vital Remains, Abysmal Dawn, Postmortem Panty Raiders, local band with a great name, I don't know if they exist anymore, and Antikythera. This, obviously, I went for Vital Remains, Origin, and Hate Eternal. All of these bands played really well, especially Origin. Origin, the vocalist from Origin, is really killer. He jumps around the stage like a crazy man, and he's always promoting crowd surfing and moshing, and he gets the crowd pumped, basically. But I will say that Vital Remains sucked. I was really pumped for Vital Remains, but this is the only time I actually ended up seeing them, and I don't know if it's a band that sucked or the production that sucked, but you couldn't hear anything. The drum fills were so loud, and you couldn't hear the vocals or anything. The mosh pit was crazy though. There was like a dog pile as soon as they started playing their first song, but I don't know, it's kind of cringy too. Like, as I said in my Black Dahlia Murder track review, they're way too like Antichrist about it, and they're like, everyone say fuck God with me. It's like, okay, chill, man. I don't know. It's kind of cringy in my opinion. If that's what you're for, whatever, but hey, I don't know. Hate Eternal in Origin though, they stole a show. Next page. The 18th concert I went to was called An Evening with Amon Amarth. And the reason it was called An Evening with Amon Amarth is because they were the only band that played. They actually played 2 sets. The first set, I believe, was... What was that album they released a few years ago? I think it was called like War of Gods or... No. Salter Rising. They played that album in its entirety because it had just been released, and then they played a second set where they played a lot of classics. Now, Amon Amarth is really a gateway metal band in my opinion, and they play a really good live show, but something about it, I don't know. I'm not judging Amon Amarth because they do perform well, they have a lot of cool music, but I wasn't feeling it so much, and honestly, they should have got some opening acts, I think, so they could have took more of a rest, because by the time they played Pursuit of the Vikings for the encore, Johan Haig, the vocalist, he was basically just talking at that point, and he has a deep voice, so it still kind of works, but the warning sun return. Yeah, but I don't know, it sounded pretty bad at that point. 19th concert I went to this one was really killer. This one was Arch Enemy Chaos Legions tour with Tonic, super good black metal band in my opinion, from Taiwan, I believe. They're a really cool band. I did ask them for an autograph or something once though, and they could barely understand me. But yeah. With Tonic, Skeleton Witch, and Devil Driver, this is the first time I saw Skeleton Witch, and this is honestly what I went for, Skeleton Witch, because I love Skeleton Witch. They kill it every time. Back then they had their former vocalist, Chance Garnett, and, you know, it's too bad they kicked him out, but I mean, if he's gonna be drinking a lot, you gotta kick the guy out, right? But you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Skeleton Witch killed it though, Tonic killed it, Devil Driver killed it, Arch Enemy killed it. All around great show. Great mosh, great everything. 20th show I went to was Under Oath with This Is Hell, The Chariot Again, and Comeback Kid. I remember I was in the mosh pit for Comeback Kid, and that was the first exposure I had to hardcore dancers, you know, the spin kicks and whatnot. And there was like a mosh pit with hardcore dancers behind the mosh pit, and I was moshing, and then the spin kicker went and pow, right in my back. And that really hurt, and I got angry, and I left the mosh pit, and I cried. No, I'm kidding, I didn't cry, but I don't like moshing around hardcore dancers. I don't like hardcore dancing. I think it's kind of wacky. But yeah, that was a good show until I got kicked in the back. Then I got salty. 21st show I saw was Decapitated with Abhorrupt, local band, Rings of Saturn. They're getting more popular as time goes on. Flesh God Apocalypse and Decrepit Birth. This was a really good show all around, technical death metal. But yeah, I remember this was the first time I saw Decrepit Birth, and I didn't really go to the show to see Decrepit Birth. I specifically went for Decapitated, but I think in my opinion, they actually ended up stealing the show, Decrepit Birth, and I'm happy to be seeing them again in October with Black Dahlia Murder, but I'll probably end up reviewing that, so you'll see. But yeah, all of these bands really killed it, and Decapitated was really good. Spheres of Madness is such a sick live song in my opinion. But Decrepit Birth stole that show. That I don't know, something about it. They played their technical death metal so precisely, and it was just, you know. 22nd show I went to was Between the Buried and Me with Tesseract and Animals as leaders. Now, if you like instrumental... let me clear my throat here. This is going to be a long video. If you like instrumental metal, Animals as Leaders is a band for you. They put on a really sick show. They have like a big projected LED screen with just a bunch of trippy images as he plays his solos and everything. I don't know if they still do that, but they did it when I was there. And they were really cool. Tesseract was not really my cup of tea at the time. They put on a good performance, but maybe I'd like them better these days. I don't know. I didn't really like them that much back then. And then Between the Buried and Me, I think they played kind of a weak set list. They performed really well considering they have such long, proggy songs. But I think they played kind of a weak set list. I remember they opened Alaska with a keyboard solo thing, but they didn't keep playing Alaska, and that disappointed me. They just played the keyboard solo. Yeah, whatever. 23rd concert I went to was Symphony X with Warbringer and Iced Earth. Now, Iced Earth killed it, Symphony X killed it, but I went for Warbringer, and let me tell you, Warbringer is super intense live. Like, that vocalist, the frontman, I don't remember what his name is. Trying to remember, can't remember. But they always play a sweet show. I've seen them multiple times now. And this was the first time I saw them. They had a wall of death. If you don't know what that is, it's where the two sides of the mosh pit split and run at each other. I lost my shoe in that wall of death, and that was the first time I lost my shoe in a mosh pit. So, memories, right? I can't even believe I remember this stuff. Yeah, that was a good show all around. Ooh, 24th show was Deep Purple with Jonas and the Massive Attraction. Jonas and the Massive Attraction had this one-hit wonder back then on the radio. They performed it well, they performed some other songs that nobody knew of, they performed those well. But obviously, like many others, I went for Deep Purple. And unlike AC/DC and Kiss, the first two concerts I went to, this is an example of a band that got old, and you can tell they got old. And it sucks, because Deep Purple is like one of my favorite classic rock bands. I'm not sure why, it's a very specific favorite classic rock band, I guess. But I love his vocals, especially in Child in Time. If you haven't heard that song and you like classic rock, do yourself a favor and go listen to Child in Time by Deep Purple. The falsetto he hits in that song is intense. Obviously, they didn't play that song because he can't sing it anymore. They played Space Truckin', which has some falsetto in it, and he sounded like a dying squirrel. I hate to say this about Deep Purple, because I really do like them, but I'm gonna be unbiased here, and not a great concert. The tickets were pretty cheap, though, considering the venue was huge. They were like 60 or something. 25th show I went to was the Metal Alliance this was such a sweet lineup, in my opinion. Opening act, Tyrant's Demise, followed by Wretched, Impending Doom, 3 Inches of Blood, Job for a Cowboy, Dying Fetus, The Faceless, and Devil Driver headlining. Actually, I didn't see Tyrant's Demise or Wretched open because I remember I had to take a massive shit. I had like such bad diarrhea. For some reason, I chose that day to go to Whopper Wednesday. And, I was taking a diarrhea. And it sucks because it was downtown, so it's hard to find parking around there, so I had to take a dump. I dropped my friends off, I took a dump, not that you need to know this, and then I had to find parking, and then I literally sprinted right through the city so I wouldn't miss Wretched, and guess what? I missed Wretched. Whoop, bumped my light there. But I really wanted to see Wretched. Unfortunately, I missed them, haven't seen them since. But Impending Doom, 3 Inches of Blood, Job for a Cowboy, Dying Fetus, Faceless, Devil Driver, all super tight, super killer. Great show. 26th concert I went to was Grandmaster CD release show with The Revival. Local show, The Revival is really cool. You should check them out. They're pretty much like Led Zeppelin. And then I've talked about Grandmaster before. They're a local band, proggy. You know, it was a local show, basically. It was a local show. Ooh. 27th show I went to was similar to Deep Purple in the sense that this band has definitely aged. They still perform well, but God, the vocalist is so cocky, and he misses like half his notes because he's too busy doing these stupid old man dance moves. But Van Halen with Kool and the Gang. I hate to say this because Van Halen is obviously a classic rock band, and they have a lot of killer songs in my opinion. But he screwed up the songs. Who's the vocalist? David Lee Roth. I mean, Eddie Van Halen plays guitar so good. He did a few solos. It was really amazing. But David Lee Roth, he kept dancing and then he'd like miss some notes because he was too busy dancing, and it really threw me off when I was listening to the songs. But the opening act, Kool and the Gang, not many people know the band, but a lot of people know their songs. One of them being Celebrate, like Celebrate Good Times Come On or whatever it is. They were really awesome. They were like this all-black group of older men and women. They wore white suits, and there was this one, I remember to this day, there was this one 60-year-old playing a trumpet and doing cartwheels during that performance. And it was really sweet, honestly. I think they ended up stealing the show. I didn't even know who they were, but they ended up stealing the show. There was also a lady that ran on stage. She was like 50 to try and basically touch David Lee Roth. And I remember she got tackled by security. That was probably the best part of Van Halen's act. 28th show I went to was another Skate for Cancer. This one had the Rippers, the Lytics, Waster, TMNT, Danger Cat, Hope Atlantic, Happy Unfortunate, Cannon Bros, Mise en Scene. This one I just went for Waster, and I think I only ended up seeing Waster because I love Waster, and they killed it. There's nothing like moshing at a skate park. That's always pretty cool. Actually, I might even have a picture of me moshing at a skate park for Waster. If I do, it's right there. Enjoy that. 29th concert I went to. This one was called the Winnipeg Beach Fest, and it was basically a bunch of bands playing at a place around here called Winnipeg Beach. And the bands that played were Tyrant's Demise, TMSU, Mortal Ruins, The Ruined, Grandmaster, El Diablo, Red Seed, Earth Acid, Ordinary Sin, Stone Throw, Second. These are all local bands, and honestly half of them are probably defunct now. But it was weird because you're at the beach, right? You got all these families living their cottage life, and then you got these metal bands playing right in front of the water there around all these old people and these kids. And something about that just didn't seem right. But we actually, me and my friends started this mosh pit right in front of the water there, and that was cool. But then this one like douche came in and thought he was so metal, and he started knocking people down because, oh, look at me, I know how to mosh, or whatever. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. 30th concert I went to. 30th concert was Iron Maiden with Coheed and Cambria. And I personally love Iron Maiden, obviously. Who doesn't when they're a metal fan? But I also love Coheed and Cambria, and I'm very disappointed that people were booing them and throwing bottles at them on stage. Because, like I said, Iron Maiden fans are pretty hectic, and they always like to heckle the opening band because all they want is their Iron Maiden. But Iron Maiden killed it. I actually think they were better this time around than they were the first time I saw them. But yeah, they performed a lot more hits this time around. They performed Aces High, and Bruce Dickinson, vocalist of the band, hit that final note, and that was killer. Like, if he can hit that, there's no excuses a guy from Deep Purple shouldn't be able to hit his notes. But yeah, Coheed and Cambria was really awesome too, and the guy, he plays a double neck guitar for Welcome Home. He was doing like the solo behind his head, and that was the only time he won over the crowd's respect. But other than that, people were booing them, and it's sad. This was a good concert all around. 31st show I saw was Cataclysm with Diabolico, I guess you pronounce that, Rose Funeral, Flesh God Apocalypse, and Origin. Again, Origin is really sick live. The guy has a lot of energy. Cataclysm is like, they're a death metal band performing live. That's about it, really. The rest of the bands were alright. Rose Funeral was pretty good, but I'm not too into deathcore with like a bunch of breakdowns, and that's basically what they were. Flesh God Apocalypse, always super amazing live, I think. But yeah, I believe this show was the second time I got a black eye in a mosh pit, and yeah, that was something. That was something, all right. 32nd show I saw was Gwar with Legacy of Disorder, Cancer Bats, and Devil Driver. Now, I actually got here just for Devil Driver. I wanted to see Cancer Bats, but I had missed them. And so I just ended up seeing Devil Driver and Gwar. And I'm not a big fan of Gwar. I feel like their aesthetic, while I can respect it and appreciate it, it's cool that some metal band out there is doing that. They take it a little far, and honestly, I think their act is probably more, I guess, I don't even know what the word would be. The act is almost better than the music, in my opinion. So, to me, it wasn't the greatest show, but everyone performed well that I saw. Devil Driver always kills it. 33 was Emmure with The Plot in You, Obey the Brave, Unearth, and Whitechapel. I only went for Whitechapel and Unearth because Whitechapel is one of the few deathcore bands I can actually respect. But still, when you're listening to so many deathcore bands in one act, breakdowns can get a little boring, and this is no different. But yeah, Unearth was basically like the odd band out here. They're kind of like a Honestly, they're a metalcore band. They're actually a very influential metalcore band from the early days of metalcore, back when, Avenged Sevenfold was coming to and all bands like that. But yeah, Unearth is really tight. I think they're really cool live. I've seen them a few times now. But Whitechapel, also very good. Super heavy live. The walls are going to be like shaking if you see them. If you see them inside a venue. If you see them outside, then I don't know, something's going to be shaking. People maybe, I don't know. But pretty good show. I didn't really like the first 3 acts too much. Unearth and Whitechapel Low were amazing. Whew, this is taking much longer than suspected. 34th concert I went to was In Flames with Battlecross, All Shall Perish, and Demon Hunter. Now, for me, Battlecross stole a show, and they were the opening act, so that's kind of funny that they'd end up stealing the show. But Battlecross is really amazing live. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. They're kind of like metalcore. I guess kind of like melodic death at some points. But Demon Hunter, not my cup of soup. Not my cup of soup. That's like old dad metal rock kind of stuff. All Shall Perish was really good live, but also I don't listen to much All Shall Perish. Now, In Flames. I am not a big fan of the direction In Flames took. I have no problem with, bands trying new things, but I was a big fan of early In Flames. The Jester Race, the Horacle. December Flower is definitely my favorite In Flames song. That song is amazing. And I remember actually at one point, it went silent and In Flames had just finished playing a bunch of their new soft rock songs. And I yelled, "Play December Flower," and a lot of people were laughing at that, so that made me feel good. But yeah, they didn't play December Flower. So yeah, that was that. Anyway, 35th concert I saw was Billy Talent, Dead Silence Tour with Indian Handcrafts, Hollerado, Sum 41. Maybe I'm a little biased, but Billy Talent is one of my favorite bands of all time. Probably one of my top favorite bands. Perhaps even my favorite band, I don't know. But Indian Handcrafts was weird. I believe there's 2 people in that band. I may be incorrect. They're a cool band, but you gotta put a lot of energy into your music if you're gonna make a 2-person band work. Think White Stripes, think 21 Pilots, these bands make it work. And Indian Handcrafts, they're doing alright, but could use some more practice, I don't know. Not with their music, but just with their stage presence and energy. Hollerado, not my cup of soup. They had a cool drum kit. It had like stained glass designs on their drums, but yeah, that's all I remember really from them. Sum 41, this is the only time I saw Sum 41, and I am glad I did, because that guy hurts himself a lot and has to cancel tours. From what I've heard, he's broken his leg before, But Sum 41 is amazing live, really gets the crowd pumping. And then Billy Talent, super amazing live, has always been super amazing live. One of my favorite shows I've ever seen. And there's a lot here, as you're currently seeing. 36th concert I saw was 3 Inches of Blood with Inverted Serenity, Tyrant's Demise, Goatwhore, and that is it, actually. Tyrant's Demise and Inverted Serenity, 2 local bands, 2 pretty good local death metal bands. I've talked about Tyrant's Demise before already. Goatwhore, super tight live. You will actually probably see an in-depth review of one of their shows in the future from me, so I won't talk too much about them. And then 3 Inches of Blood, I already spoke about them. Super tight live. Skate for Cancer 2013, I believe, was the 37th show I saw. I don't have written down who actually played that one, so whatever. I saw another Skate for Cancer, 3rd one. That's all you need to know. 37th show I saw was actually directly after Skate for Cancer. I went to Skate for Cancer, I saw Waster again, I believe, there. And then I went right to Cannibal Corpse right after. And they were the opening acts for them were Beyond Creation, Immolation, and Napalm Death, which, of course, any of you metal fans out there know is a classic grindcore band. So Napalm Death killed it. Amazing grindcore act. That guy has so much energy on stage, even though they're pretty much an old band now. I don't know how old the members are, but they're getting up there. Immolation and Beyond Creation were both really sweet. They didn't move around much, but they played their music well. And then Cannibal Corpse, come on, brutal death metal, gets the crowd going. George Fisher is in my opinion, one of the best modern death metal vocalists to date. He's just got a certain energy to him, and his build just makes the music seem all the more intimidating, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that was a good show. 38th show I saw was Skeleton, which I can't even speak anymore. This has gone on far too long. Okay, 38 was Skeleton Witch with Xul, Xul, and Endless Chaos, a local band that I believe is still going on. And Endless Chaos is actually really sweet. You should check them out. They always put on great shows, a lot of energy. Kind of like Skeleton Witch, honestly. But yeah, Skeleton Witch, this was back when they had their old vocalist, Chance Garnett. Talked about them before. They put on a killer show. This is no different. Killer show. Amazing. Good time. 39th show was Winter Sun with Starkill, Arsis, and Flesh God Apocalypse. Flesh God Apocalypse, now as you've heard, I've seen like 4 times at this point or something. Starkill, amazing live. Flesh God Apocalypse, amazing live. Arsis, probably one of my favorite technical melodic death metal bands. They put on a really good show. And Winter Sun is weird because they don't really act like a metal band. They act like kind of like a symphony band. Like they gotta hit every note super precise. And it's like when their song is over, they'll be like, thank you very much, kind of thing. That was interesting, and I feel like that kind of took away from the energy of their performance because they are a melodic death metal band. So, but they still performed really well, and it was a good show. 40th show I went to was a Black Dahlia Murder with Noisem Fallujah. I believe I don't even actually think you pronounce it like that, whatever. There it is. And Skeleton Witch. Skeleton Witch killed it. Missed Noisem, I believe, that day. And Fallujah, they killed it too, but Skeleton Witch and Black Dahlia Murder were really where it was at. Unfortunately, I think Trevor Sternad of the Black Dahlia Murder doesn't really like our city so much. That's the vibe I get. He says a few things, but really they play their songs and then they get out, basically. And that's no different the second time I saw them, as I'll talk about in minutes to come. 50th show what the heck? This goes from 40 to 50. I guess that's why I saw so many concerts, huh? I skipped a whole 10. That's weird. Yeah, okay. 41st show I've seen was Protest a Hero with Affiance, The Kindred, and Architects. This was a weird show because it was at a venue that was actually a club on like the second floor of some like Mexican restaurant or something. And there shouldn't be a show in a club. That's always really cheesy in my opinion. These people that think it's like, oh, club night are gonna like go there thinking that, well, like I said, it's club night. And they expect, you know, a DJ or something. And what they get is Protest a Hero. And I don't think they're very impressed. They look a little disappointed. And you get all these moshers and they get scared and they back off. And it's just weird. It's not the right place for a metal show. But Protest a Hero, Rhodey Walker, vocalist. Amazing vocalist. I think they've kind of like simmered down in their older age because they've been drinking too much, in my opinion. But they still put on a pretty solid show. And Architects is really crazy live. The guy was doing like flips off the stage even though it was a club. He was like hanging from the roof rafters. That was pretty funny. But The Kindred, pretty good. And Affiance, I think I missed some, unfortunately. But yeah, good show. Except for the fact that it was in a club. Why you do that? 51st show I saw was Commencing Human Desperation with Disillusion, Breaking the Kings. Or, sorry, Dissolution and Breaking the Kings. Local show, this was spur of the moment. My friend went, he was texting me. I'm like, oh, hey, I'll come on down. Went there was like 10 people there that night. Pretty anticlimactic. But, Commencing Human Desperation, local deathcore band. Pretty sick if you like your deathcore. You should go check them out. They're trying to pick up still, I believe, so yeah. 52nd show I saw was Children of Bodom with Tyr and Death Angel. Now, as much as I went to this show to see Children of Bodom, they actually didn't have the greatest set list. Alexi Laiho is an amazing guitarist and an amazing vocalist, obviously, but they didn't play a lot of stuff I wanted to hear, and while they did have a good stage presence, I think Death Angel actually ended up stealing the show. Even though I didn't even go for Death Angel, they played a really good sets basically, and they had a lot of energy. The vocalist did a lot of like cheesy like jumps like this, if you know what I mean. But that's kind of irrelevant. It was funny though. So yeah, Tear was kind of like folk medley. They played well, but they weren't really my vibe. Yeah, good show though, worth the money. That was actually not the 50-second concert, but it's written down as a 50-second concert, as you know. That was like the 43rd or something. Whatever, I'll just keep reading what it says on the paper. 53rd concert. This one was Pagan Fest with Korpiklani, Turissus, I guess you pronounce it, Tonic, Varg, and Winterheim. Now, I guess it's called Pagan Fest because these are a bunch of pagan bands, but really I don't think half of them are pagan bands, whatever. Korpiklani was headlining this one. I got to see Tonic again, that Taiwanese band from, that Taiwanese black metal band, sorry. They were really killer, that's who I went for, but unfortunately they just opened it. And yeah, all of these bands are pretty tight. Korpiklani, I did not go for Korpiklani at all my friends went for them. Not a big fan of them, but I will admit they stole a show. They played a really good performance. They had this guy, I believe he was playing accordion, which is rare in metal bands, so that's always cool to see. But they played a good performance. That was a good show, especially considering it was like an underground show for like 20 bucks or something. Well worth it. 54th show I went to was the Saskatoon X with Billy Talent. Now, the X is a carnival we have here in Canada. I think it's just in Canada, I'm not entirely sure. And you pay admission to go to the carnival, right? And sometimes a band will be playing. Here in Winnipeg, we've gotten Cancer Bats before. We've gotten Serena Ryder, I think. I may be incorrect. But we get random acts. This time around, it wasn't that great. But me and my friends saw that Billy Talent was playing the Saskatoon X, and we're like, if we have to pay $15 for admission and we get to see a full Billy Talent set, let's go to Saskatoon. So we went to Saskatoon, we saw Billy Talent, they played an outdoor festival. Really sweet, actually, there might be some pictures here. It was super crowded because it's Billy Talent and it's like $15 to see them. So yeah, mosh pit was crazy. There was a bunch of mosh pits. They played Line and Sinker, which I thought they didn't play that anymore, but they played Line and Sinker, and yes, they played Line and Sinker. I can die happy now. That was a really good show. Well worth the trip, honestly. 55th concert was Arsis with Aligion? I don't know how to pronounce that. There you go. And Ex Mortis. Ex Mortis is always really cool live. That other band, I think I missed them. But Arsis, this one they were playing their 10th anniversary of Celebration of Guilt. Amazing album. Melodic death masterpiece in my opinion. But yeah, they performed that album and it was really well done. All of those songs are super amazing in my opinion. And I remember when they played Worship Depraved, which has like this crazy outro solo, I just went bonkers. Amazing show. They played some other songs after that. They performed their full album, and yeah, good show. And the guy was sick that night, I believe he said. So considering he was sick, it was really well done. 56th show was Amon Amarth with Sabaton and Skeleton Witch. I went to this one for Skeleton Witch specifically. Another great Skeleton Witch performance. They've never disappointed me personally. Sabaton, not my cup of soup, but I guess they put on an alright performance. And then Amon Amarth was, you know, they played some songs, they played some death metal. Amon Amarth is always like the same thing. It's not amazing, it's not crap, it's just kind of like, it's a performance. And I'm not hating on them. I mean, they're a great band, honestly, but they're just really like meat and potatoes, death metal, I guess, melodic death metal. So yeah, that was that. I went for Skeleton Witch, and actually I got a picture with Chance Garnett. Check that out. That was a good picture. Yeah. 57th concert was DTA Tours with Untimely Demise, Rivers of Nihil, Massacre, and Obituary. This was an amazing show, one-of-a-kind show, because if you don't know what DTA Tours is, it was Death to All, which is the members of Death all coming together and getting a vocalist and slash guitarist to replace Chuck, who obviously passed away many years ago. and they played Beth songs, and they were amazing. They were well done because they were pretty much all the members of the band, excluding Chuck, unfortunately, rest in peace. But yeah, they played them amazingly. I think the guy that filled in did a really great job. I'm not sure what his name was, but I also got to see Obituary, which was really sweet. They put on a great performance. Massacre was really cool. Rivers of Nihil, really cool upcoming technical... I cannot even speak anymore. Really cool up-and-coming technical death metal band. And Untimely Demise, Vancouver-based band. They're pretty good live. Yeah, they're pretty good. 58th show I saw was Leica, Zoo Year's Eve show 2015, with Tyrant's Demise, Psychotic Gardening, and Bears with Technology. This was a local show. This was a New Year's Eve show, 2015, New Year's Eve 2015, obviously. And it was all right. It wasn't the greatest way you could spend your New Year's Eve. Leica doesn't exist anymore as a band, I believe. But, you know, it was a local show. That's about it. I remember some guy tried giving me his, like, half-drunk beer. He's like, don't worry, you know, it's all good. You can have it. I just don't want it anymore. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's all right, fellow. You got this. But, yeah, 59th show I went to was Behemoth with Cannibal Corpse, Aeon, and Tribulation. Obviously, that was a killer show. Cannibal Corpse and Behemoth on the same bill. But, Cannibal Corpse stole that show, in my opinion. Behemoth, I kind of expected more, honestly. Especially Nergal being so infamous, having been on, like, Poland's Got Talent or whatever it was. But, yeah, Aeon, that vocalist scared the hell out of me. He kept doing, like this when he was, you know, singing, and it was really scary. But, yeah, Tribulation, sick band, all around. This was a good show, but Behemoth, I kind of expected more from. They had a lot of good stage props, but stage props ain't gonna save your performance, man. Anywho, 60th show was Idoltary. Is that... No. Sorry, I don't know if that's how you pronounce that word. Adultery or whatever. English is hard. They performed with a local band called Noir. These are two black metal bands, and let me tell you, this band Idoltary, the headlining one, they took black metal to the extreme. This guy was like, I think he was punching the guitarist in the head, and I don't think the guitarist was liking it. And he had his corpse paint on, you know, he had his friggin' spikes on, you know, he was metal as fuck, basically. But, Noir was a really good progressive melodic black metal band. They performed very well. And then Idoltary was like a little much for me. They performed well, but that guy scared me, and he actually walked off the stage at one point, and I'm like, I hope this guy doesn't pull some G.G. Allen shit where he's like punching me in the face, you know, for the power of music. But, yeah, he didn't do that, so I was safe. That was good. 61st show I saw was Cancer Bats with Occult Hand, Union Stockyards, and We Hunt Buffalo. First two are local bands, and they're pretty good. Occult Hand didn't really fit the bill. They're like a death metal band. But Union Stockyards, kind of pop punk. Good performance. They were jumping around a lot. And then We Hunt Buffalo was kind of... They were good, but they weren't my cup of tea. They were kind of slow music, especially when, you know, Cancer Bats was going to be playing right after them. But yeah, once Cancer Bats hit the stage, I believe they opened with Arsenic of the Year of the Snake. That was crazy. That was such a good opener, in my opinion. You know, Liam comes skipping out on stage. He's just killing it. And unfortunately, I couldn't go in the mosh pit because I had broken my elbow a few months before that, so that wasn't happening. But that show actually ended up ending early because some guy stage dived, he landed on his head, and Liam called the show off because the guy needed to get rushed to the hospital. And that kind of sucked. We weren't even at the encore yet, but all around they put on a really solid performance, and it was a pretty good time, except for the fact that my elbow had just been broken recently. 62nd concert I went to was Revocation with Endless Chaos, Blackfast, Archspire, and Cannabis Corpse. Now, if you don't know Cannabis Corpse, they're kind of a parody band of Cannibal Corpse where they just take their songs and basically base the lyricism around cannabis. And Funny enough, I feel like Cannabis Corpse actually has better songs because they have more melody to them, which is probably a very controversial opinion for those Cannibal Corpse fans. But they're both really good bands. But I mean, Cannabis Corpse put on a good performance. They had like their mascot, which is a guy in like this giant marijuana outfit, come into the mosh pit and start moshing, and that was funny. He was crowd surfing and stuff. Archspire, technical death metal, really fast. They're good, they play their songs well, but a little much for me. Blackfast was actually a really cool band. I don't know if they're still going at it or not, but they played kind of like thrashy black metal, kind of like Vector vibes, if you've ever listened to Vector. And they were alright, they were alright. Endless Chaos, killed it. And Revocation. Now, Revocation was really good live. Vocalist has one of the best names ever, David Davidson. But they have so many songs with like 3-minute instrumental interludes, and at that point it almost feels like you're listening to an instrumental band and not actually a band with the vocals, which is kind of disappointing because Revocation has some really good like thrash, get you pumped, get the energy flowing vocals, if you know what I mean. But yeah, they still performed really well. 63rd show I saw was the Black Dahlia Murder with Maruda, Harm's Way, freaking intimidating vocalist, might I say, and Iron Reagan. Now, I missed Maruda. Harm's Way was good and not really what I went there for, but they played like a good sort of hardcore punk, I guess they were. And then Iron Reagan, super amazing. I mean, it's a vocalist from Municipal Waste. Like, obviously, they're going to be ready to party and get the mosh started, and that's exactly what they did. So they performed really well. And Black Dahlia Murder, again, they performed really well. They were better this time than the last time I saw them. They played more hits, in my opinion. But still, Trevor Sternad didn't really seem to give a shit about Winnipeg. And I remember I actually tried to... I asked for a picture after the show was over. I asked Brian, the guitarist, and he's like, hey, we just gave all these people a bunch of beers. I'm not going to go take pics now, you know? And I mean, he didn't sound like a dick about it. He sounded like classic Brian. But, I mean, it's just a picture. Come on, I'm a fan. I know you have a lot of things to do. You're a touring band. You probably get asked these stupid questions all the time. But it's just one picture. Come on, I'm a fan. Anyway, 64th concert was Protest the Hero Kazaya X tour with Waster and Mandroid Echostar. Mandroid Echostar was one of those bands that actually sold me on their performance. They were super amazing live. The vocalist, so good in my opinion. Amazing melodies, and I ended up buying their album and getting them all to sign them. The guy was really cool about it. I went up to the vocalist and I asked if I could have his autograph. And he's like, oh yeah, and come back here later. All the band members will be here and we'll get you all these autographs. And I'm like, cool, okay. So yeah, that happened. And then Waster, good as always. Protest the Hero. This is what was important to me about this show. They played their album Kazaya, which is one of my all-time favorite albums, in its entirety. And this is obviously a one-time thing. Never going to happen again. They barely even play half those songs anymore. And it was amazing. They played that along with some other newer songs, but they performed those songs so well, and that was definitely an experience for a music fan like me. 65th show I went to was Enforcer with Ex Mortis, Cauldron, and Warbringer. Now, of course, I went for Warbringer again. Cauldron and Ex Mortis were, you know, alright. They were bands. They played their stuff, and, you know, that was about it. Warbringer killed it. Vocalist, super good as usual. I remember I went up to him after the show, and I'm like, really good performance. And he's like, hey, thanks, man. I can barely speak, though. Sorry, I can't say much. And that was kind of funny, but, yeah, Warbringer killed it, and then Enforcer got on stage, and, you know, having a bunch of guys dressed like that right after Warbringer plays, wasn't really feeling it, and I think it was a school night for me, so me and my friends actually ended up leaving. No disrespect to Enforcer if you like them, just not really, you know, my kind of music, I guess. Not really, you know, the music that was being played that night, so it didn't really mix too well. Anywho, 66th concert I went to was just another local show, Tyrant's Demise with Perilous, Endless Chaos, and Without Mercy. Now, this show was, it was good. It was a local show, but I don't go to too many local shows anymore because I feel like I went to so many in my adolescence that all of these bands, as you heard already, I saw so many times already, and I feel like I might as well save the money for the next big thing, the next $100 concert. Don't get me wrong, I still totally support local acts, and all of these acts are like super good. We are, blessed enough to have so many good local acts in our city. So yeah, I still totally support them, but I don't go to the shows as much anymore. 67 show I saw was Skeleton Witch with Cell, Infector, and Vathic. Now, all of these openers are actually upcoming local bands. I don't think I mentioned any of these beforehand. Cell is like a really good upcoming black metal band. You could check out their new album, actually. Infector, I don't know if I caught Infector or not, but I definitely saw Vathic. They were super good. Female vocalist, and she actually killed it for death metal, or black metal, or whatever they were playing. I don't even remember. But Skeleton Witch. First time I saw Skeleton Witch with their new vocalist, Adam Clemens. And while it's obviously a lot different than Chance Garnett, their former vocalist, he still killed it. The show was still amazing. They didn't play Within My Blood, which kind of disappointed me. But they're cool dudes. I got all of their autographs on their new album, Apothic Gloom, which is a really killer album. You should check it out if you're a fan of like melodic death and black metal. But yeah, that was a good show. I enjoyed it. 68th show I went to was Cataclysm with Tyrant's Demise and Karak Angren. Now, I totally went to this for Karak Angren because they're a... what is it? Okay, right, I remember. They're from the Netherlands, and they don't come around often because they're one of those, European bands that just don't come around often because they're from so far away. But, this was probably the only chance I believe I had to see Karak Angren in like the 6 years probably I've been a fan of their music, and they put on such a good performance even though it was like a really lame venue. There were like these round tables everywhere because it was like half venue, half cafe, and when the mosh opened up the tables were like falling down and stuff. But Karak Angren, don't give a shit. They had a wall of death. They had corpse paint. They had really good like stage theatrics for such a small black metal band in a small venue. And he just put on an amazing performance. Like, he does the act so well. He becomes like a different character on stage almost. There's one point where he's walking off stage and like walking around and singing his black metal all around the venue. It's pretty cool. Tyrant's Demise, local band, killed it as usual. Cataclysm, again, death metal band. Bare minimum death metal kind of performance. They didn't have much theatrics. It was just him doing his thing on stage, and that's about it. Karak Angren definitely stole a show for that one. 69th show I saw was Protest the Hero with Cyclamen, which is like a Chinese band, I believe. I actually missed them, which is disappointing because I kind of wanted to see them. Auras and a Wilhelm Scream. Now, a Wilhelm Scream I had never heard of before this show, but they killed it live. They had so much energy. I'm not a big fan of their recordings, but like I said, they killed it live. So much energy. Pretty awesome. Protest the Hero, not one of their better performances. This might actually be one of their worst from what I've seen from them. But they were still really good live. Rhodey Walker is still a really amazing vocalist, and he hits all his notes pretty much dead on. But their set list was kind of weak, and they didn't play too many songs, so not the best from you, Protest the Hero, not the best. 70th show I saw. This one was a Billy Talent Afraid of Heights tour to obviously promote their recent album Afraid of Heights, and as usual, Billy Talent was so amazing live. It's disappointing because they always play the big venue here in my city, but every time it seems like there's less of a turnout, there's less people coming to see them. And I know that in America, Billy Talent isn't very big, but as a Canadian band, they were huge. They were a huge punk band, especially upon the release of their first album, self-titled, and they killed it. But they were opened by Monster Truck and Dirty Nil. And me personally, I think Dirty Nil was second best. Monster Truck is kind of repetitious. They play the southern rock stuff, and if you've heard one song, you've heard all of them kind of thing, But Dirty Nil, amazing upcoming Canadian punk band. If you haven't checked them out, you should definitely check them out. First album right there. I believe it's called Higher Power. They have so many good songs. They got this really cool punk vibe to them, and they perform so well on stage. the guy's always like playing his guitar and like chewing bubblegum and making bubbles on stage, if that made any sense. But yeah, they're really cool. You should check them out. Great show. 71st show is a bit of a disappointment. There's a lot of backstory to this one, which I'm not going to get into because it's personal, but this was Red Hot Chili Peppers with some guy on drums, literally some guy on drums. I just got there and there was some guy playing drums by himself with like this trippy background. But Iron Tom too was another opener. Iron Tom killed it. I'm not a big fan of their music. I had never heard of them before this. But they put on an exceptional performance. The guy got a little weird. He kept like unbuttoning his shirt and doing these really cringy dance moves. But they were really good nonetheless. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I'm glad I saw them. But for the $200 I paid for a ticket, complete disappointment. Not a complete disappointment, but a disappointment in my opinion. Because I don't know if you've seen them before, but when I saw them, they said nothing on stage. They literally said nothing between songs. They would play a song, they would jam some kind of boring jam, honestly, for like 10 freaking minutes, and then they'd play another song. And I believe the only thing that was said on stage was Flea talking to Anthony, the vocalist, and that's all that was said. He wasn't even talking to the audience. He just said something to Anthony. There was no like, oh, you guys are a great crowd or anything. I know it's generic, but you can say something at least. And then the set list was really lackluster for $200. I wanted to see Under the Bridge. I wanted to see Other Side. I wanted to see songs like that. I didn't. I saw like a bunch of the new stuff. I saw like 3 hits by them, and then that's about it. They left, they played like 2 encore songs, and then they were out. Bam. Gone. Probably not a band I'd ever see again, but I'm glad I saw them nonetheless. Don't get me wrong, I love Red Hot Chili Peppers, like I love their music, but what a lackluster performance. It's like they didn't give a shit anymore, and that's what disappointed me, honestly. But yeah, what can you do? Now, the 72nd and the 73rd shows I saw, the most recent shows were Goatwhore and Offspring. I'm not going to get into those, because actually, I saw those when I started this channel, and I plan to review both of those albums in more albums. I cannot speak anymore. Oh my god, I'm sorry. This has gone on far too long, guys. I'd imagine this is like a really long video. Hopefully it wasn't super boring. Hopefully you guys got some insightful commentary. But yeah, I'm just totally losing track of thought here. The last concerts I saw recently were Goatwhore and Offspring, and I plan to review those, do concert reviews on this channel, because, like I said, these are all the concerts I've ever been to in my life, and now future concerts that I see will be reviewed on this channel, so you guys will have an idea of every concert I've ever seen, basically, from now on. So, expect a Goatwhore and an Offspring review sometime soon, maybe not too soon, but sometime soon. And, yeah, hopefully this was enjoyable, hopefully it wasn't too boring. And hopefully, if you see Red Hot Chili Peppers, it will be better than when I saw them. Anyway, if you like this long, monotonous video, you can feel free to subscribe there, and of course hit that like button, because that's always appreciated. Got a bunch of links to my social down there if you want to follow me on any of that, and I got a link to my last video right up there, a track review of the new Black Dahlia Murder single, Nightbringers. Anyway, I'm Greg Chapelski, the Music Nut, and I will see you guys next time.